Step 60.
Welcome to the Cauldron of Curiosities. Mark Graham, publican and owner of the Star in Vogue.
That's me.
So tell me, Mark, a little bit about yourself. Where do you come from?
Well, I'm a Truro boy, one of the few landlords in Cornwall that are actually Cornish. So I'm a Truro boy, although my father's Scottish. So I went to school in Truro, went off, did a few other jobs here and there. And just as life is, a big full circle, went round the world and round the county, and I'm back about 8 miles from where I started from.
So you said that you went off around the world. So what made you curious about travelling? What made you leave?
My father was in the Royal Navy, and I always had an interest in it. When I left school, most of the boys back then, you had to be work with your hands. There was no universities and colleges and things. So I joined the Royal Navy as well and went off. And funny enough, my son had just come over to visit. He's in the Royal Navy now as well, so a bit of a tradition in our family.
And what did you do in the Royal Navy?
I was a weapons engineer.
Okay.
So I worked on everything from small arms to missiles, torpedoes, big guns, things like that, all the service maintenance, everything but firing them.
So that comes in useful in the pub when it's throwing out time?
I try not to. This day and age, you have to be a little more tactful than when I first started many moons ago. So you escort people from the premises now. You don't throw them out anymore.
So you went straight into the Navy from school, did you?
Well, no. I thought it'd be a good idea to get a bit of background, so I went to what was then Camborne Technical College. And I did a year's engineering course at the Dole Coast site, right by Dole Coast Mine, which is now a second-hand shop.
Yes. Miss Molly's.
That's it, Miss Molly's. That's it. I forgot the name of it. But yeah, I spent a year there as an engineering student. And then joined the Navy.
Oh, right. And because you mentioned to me before we started recording, is that when you went into the tin mine?
No, it's one of the things. I left the Navy in 1987, and that was basically have a family.
Yeah.
I thought it was a bad idea to be travelling around the world and leave the little woman home with the babies. So I come out of the Navy and I thought, what can I do that's different to being in the Navy? So I went to work in a hole underground. So started at Wheel Jane, moved on to Wellington, South Crofty, Colonel Tin, and just did that for, well, until the tin crisis. I'm sure everybody remembers the tin crisis.
Yeah.
And I was working a night shift. I went to bed early one morning, got woken very loud with someone knocking on the door about 2 hours after I'd gone to bed and said, the mine's closed, we're all kaput, gone. So you're unemployed.
Yeah, so what did you do next?
Well, first of all, I panicked because I had a house, a mortgage, a wife, kids, and I just went out and tried to do the best I could and find a job. Lucky enough, from my Royal Navy days, I was a part of my weapons engineering mainly was electrics.
Yeah.
So I went into electrical work, started working for some of the factories around here. So one down in Hale called J&F Pool, some of the older people might remember. Teagles, Powell's.
Yeah.
So I did that. A little bit of house bashing on the side.
Yeah.
A little bit of commercial, shop fitting and all that. And funny enough, a lot of pub fitting. So I went into pub refitting, which sort of led me to this game.
So going into pubs, you were starting to see a lifestyle that made you go, right, I wonder if I could do that?
Well, I had a little taste of it when I was 15 years old, when I started working as what was then called a cellar boy or a Saturday boy at the Punch Bowl and Ladle Inn at Penalui.
Yes.
And I used to move the barrels around and take the empties out, polish the bottles on the shelf, sweep the car park and all that.
Yeah, that used to be the place to go to, didn't it, when we were teenagers?
It was a lovely place. It was run by a gentleman by the name of John Blewett. I always remember, and he was a proper old school landlord.
Yes.
Brilliant landlord. Knew how to chat to everybody. Could talk to anyone from the dustman to the Lord Mayor. He was brilliant guy, and I thought this could be interesting.
Yeah.
But I forgot about it, went off and did other things, but it came back to me later.
So it piqued your interest when you were working as an
Yeah, it piqued
electrical
my-
engineer.
yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, with some of my jobs, Royal Navy and mining, and I'm an ex-rugby player, they tend to have a drink or two
Yes.
afterwards and all that. So I was always a very good customer.
You knew what the inside of a pub looked like.
I had a faint idea what the inside of a pub looked like. I could tell you a thing or two about drinks and things. So
Who did you play rugby for?
I started with St. Austell because I lived in Truro and sort of on the outskirts of Truro, so St. Austell was a better one. And then when I moved to J&F Pool and I was living out near Redruth, I started playing for Hale.
Yeah.
And the better part of my career, if you want to call that, I played for a very interesting club, which my heart is still always be, in Logan Park.
Yeah.
Sometimes around here called Hooligan Park.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah.
It was more about the social side of rugby than the actual rugby. Brilliant times.
And do you play any veterans games anymore?
I played a couple, but unfortunately, I'm not in the best of health. Well, actually, tell a lie. I'm in a good health, but I creak a lot, and I've got a bad back. I need 2 operations on my knees. Yeah, I've dislocated both shoulders and all that, and I'm old and slow.
Yeah.
And if you know much about rugby, if you're slow and they catch you, it doesn't have hurt.
It does, yes. So going back to be what made you want to be a pub landlord, what was the first thing that you did when you were thinking, I quite like the idea, that looks like a job that might suit me? Did you think it was going to be easier than doing electronics?
Well, a bit of yes and a bit of no. I thought, well, you'd be in one place, you wouldn't have to move around and things like that. You're not lifting heavy weights and doing stuff and all that. But I knew that the hours would be longer. So it's a bit of a trade-off. And to be honest, I fell into it. I was refitting a pub in Camborne that we refitted it out as a pub called McNamara's. But people from Camborne might remember it as the Old Trevithick Inn.
Oh yes, I know it's that, yeah.
I was refitting it out, and as an electrician, and when it got near the end, the manager who was taken over was a very famous Camborne person called Tommy Adams.
Yeah.
The big rugby player and miner who I'd worked down the mines with.
Yeah.
And I knew him. And he just said to me a couple of days before it opened, he said, "Here, Mark, you wouldn't fancy coming working for me behind the bar. I need a manager because I've had a few bits and pieces." He said, "Come and work for me and you can live here."
Nice.
So you can live here and work here. And I thought about it. And I went, yeah, go on. Give it a go, why not?
Yeah.
If you
Nothing
like
to
my
lose.
curious side, go.
Yeah.
Wonder what it's like, yeah. If they like poacher turned gamekeeper. So
Yes.
from drinker to actually being the landlord. So I went to work for Tommy. And I worked down there for a bit.
So how long did you work for him for?
Only about 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years. As life goes on, unfortunately, the shall we say the relationship that I was in at the time fell apart, and circumstances dictated that one of us had to go, and I thought it should be me.
Yeah.
So I went off and did other stuff.
And what was your next pub? Where did you go next?
Ooh, I worked for a few after that. I went. The exact one after that. I think I went back on the tools as an electrician for a bit, and then came off, and then I did it quite a fair time for another good old proper landlord, who isn't Cornish, but I worked at the Swan for about 7 years for a gentleman named Peter Cook. Yeah, and I did a fair bit of. In that time, I was doing sort of pub work some days and in the evenings, and keeping a bit of electrics going.
Yeah.
And so I worked for him for quite a while, and then he moved to the Roundhouse in Truro, and I sort of went with him after a couple of years. There was a lot of on and off in between the pub game and the electrical game, and then the opportunity came up in Truro to actually be the owner of or the licensee, I should say, at the Britannia Inn in Truro. Mm-hmm. So that was the first one I actually took on in charge instead of being manager or head barman and things. Yeah. So that was my first one, and during that time I met my present wife again, because it's slightly just before, because I met her while I was on the tools and knew her while I was working at the pub. So I had the Britannia for a while. Came out of that, went back on the tools again as an electrician. Yeah. Married my now wife. We had to look for something to do together. Yeah. And I came to, funny enough, to this pub. Again by accident.
The Star Inn in
the Star Inn, the Star Inn at Vogue.
Vogue, St.Day.
Because we had a fight to use that.
Yeah, tell listeners about Vogue, because obviously Vogue has been here for hundreds of years.
Well, if you have a look back, this pub has been here round about, I don't know the exact, but round about 200 years. Mm-hmm. And the hamlet of Vogue is apparently in the Doomsday Book.
Yes.
So it's been here a while. Yeah. And just one day after COVID, I think they had nothing better to do, but a company called Condé Nast, which are the owners of Vogue magazine, sent me what they call in the trade a cease and desist letter from a set of solicitors saying, we notice you're called the Star of Vogue, we're a Vogue magazine. There will be some confusion with our customers of who's and what's what. And went on with this long arty-farty letter and basically said, we will take legal action against you unless you stop using the word Vogue. Now, when I opened it, I thought it was some bugger in the bar having a laugh. Yeah. You know, it's a pub club. Yeah. I had to check the calendar. No, it's not April the 1st. Asked a few people round, have you done this for a joke? And found out it was actually serious, which did worry me for a bit, because I'm only a local Cornish boy. I ain't got deep pockets for solicitors in London, and they obviously have. But I decided, right, I've got to fight it. So I sent them a letter back, which became a bit infamous or famous, which in a roundabout way explained that we've been here. The football team plays at Vogue Park. The pub's been here 200 years. They were very proud of the fact that they've been going since 1916.
Yes.
And I happened to mention that the pub's been here 200 years. The village is in the Doomsday Book. Beat that. Yeah. And went all the way along and basically told them in a very polite way that no, I'm not going to back down. They can bugger off, and I'll see them in court if they want to. Which was off and away, and then I thought nothing of it. And then there was a reporter for Cornwall Live who was doing a little piece in the village, and asked to park in the car park while he wandered around the village, and popped his head in before he was going and said, again, being a curious guy in the pub game, he came and said, do you know anything about the village, any interesting stuff? And of course, old school landlords like me is what goes on in the pub stays in the pub. You don't tell anything that happens in the pub. And I said, not really. And I said, I've got this. And I handed him a paper copy that I printed off. His eyes lit up. He wandered off. 2 hours later, he rung back, said, can we put it on Cornwall Live? And then all hell broke loose, because it got picked up by news agencies, BBC, ITV, Piers Morgan, the Washington Post, German TV, Japanese TV, and it just went nuts. And for 2 days, you couldn't get a drink in it for film crews.
Really?
Yeah, it was packed with film crews.
So there's footage out there on the internet of you and the pub.
Yeah, everywhere.
Look for it. Yeah.
And every single national newspaper we got. I did ask someone why everyone was so interested in it. And one of the reporters turned around and said, in the news, it's always bad news that not national news, not everyone can relate to.
Yes.
So your little story is a little funny story that people can relate to.
Yeah.
David and Goliath, little Cornish landlord taking on Vogue magazine. And lots of people have a drink, they can relate to pubs and things. So that's why it took off. Everyone was interested in it.
So did you ever get a response from Vogue magazine?
Yeah, very quickly they backed down.
Did they?
Very quickly they backed down.
Yeah.
Originally they just sent me an email saying forget it all. And then I was interviewed again by one of them who said, I hear they've apologised. And me being me, turned around and said, well, not really. They sent me a embossed letter to take me to court, but when they apologised, they sent me a shitty email.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I said, no, I want a proper one. 2 days later, I got a framed, written type letter, hand signature, apologies and all that, which is on the pub wall.
Excellent.
So, yeah, they backed down and ran away.
It's funny, isn't it? Sometimes people don't realise that it is worth saying no to some of these big organisations when they get heavy-handed. If you're in the right, you're in the right, so stick up for yourselves. So you're a good story for people to consider.
Yeah. I've always been one to believe if you're right, you're right, and if you're wrong, you're wrong, no matter how big or small you are. Now, just because you've got a big company or money behind you makes no difference.
Yeah.
I would still fight my corner, and I'll fight anybody else's corner for them as well, if they're right.
Yes.
But you've got to be right.
No, that's brilliant. So tell me, Mark, what keeps you curious about the pub trade now?
It's one of the oddest professions for being in the same place, and every day's different. Mm-hmm. I mean, I suppose a lot of people say the same about an office or, working in a factory and all that. But with the pub game, once you get up in the morning, after all the beer fairies have done all the work, because you don't do anything before you open, of course. But you get up in the morning and you open the doors, you don't know who's walking in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be a road sweeper, it could be a judge, a solicitor, it could be a rep, it could be some of you locals who want to have a chat. And like, we've been here 20 years and people have, sort of lived and died. I mean, there's kids that I've known since they were born and now drinking in the pub.
Yeah.
And in fact, a funny story is we've been here 20 years ago. 2 years ago, we put a little sign up outside the pub, and it said something along the lines of, it's our anniversary today. We've been open 18 years. We've come of age.
Yeah.
A bit of a laugh, and we put the date, which was the 9th of April, 2005. In walked my head waitress and said, "Why have you got a sign outside the pub with my birthday on it?" I said, "You're joking, are you?" I said, "That's the day we opened the pub." She said, "That's the day I was born."
Oh.
So,
yeah.
How curious is that?
Yeah.
We've had over 100 staff over the years here, and I would say a good proportion of them in this job have been ladies.
Yeah.
And a good proportion of them have, over the years, met fellas, started families, kids, and all that. There's loads of kids that come in here that are the children of their mothers who've worked for me.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to, see them grow up and, get to the age from toddling around and then running around and, then being teenagers with all the angst and all that, and then getting to 18 or 17, getting a driving license, and 18 and coming in for a pint, and I'm going, "No, I'm not serving you. You're 3 foot tall and curly hair and all that." I can't get my head around the fact that you're 18 and in the pub now. So
the pub's very much heart of the village.
Oh, very much so. I'm a true boy through and through, but this village is the biggest heart to anywhere I've been. I've lived around in a few different places: St. Earth, Campbell, and Redruth, other bits of Cornwall, but this is a really tight-knit village. They're really good. Anybody will help anybody out. There's no airs and graces. If you want help, they'll help it. Everyone says good morning or good night when you walk past them.
Yeah.
There's loads of community stuff going on. If you notice, when we walked around earlier for someone to sit down, we got the knitting club.
We did
in the other room. So
yes.
We've got knitting clubs, and we've got motorcycle groups that meet here, charity groups that meet here. The parish council meet here every now and again, and it is. There is actually an organisation. We've got a brilliant name called The Pub is the Hub, which I was going to say Prince Charles. King Charles is a patron on.
Ah.
So they try and make pubs the heart of the community and keep them open.
Yeah.
I mean, we're lucky, ours is a good village, but you can watch the news all the time that communities losing their pubs, their post office.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's all bits like that. And the pub is the hub of. If you look them up, they've moved shops into pubs, post offices into pubs.
Yeah, I've
There's
seen
even
it,
one
yeah.
that's a fish shop. They've moved into a pub. So we're along those lines. We've moved hairdressers into the pub. We've moved library into the pub because we were losing the library van in the service. What else have we moved in? We got starting up some camping. Our latest venture is a marquee for events and things and
You mentioned
weddings.
the community market.
Community market,
yeah,
that's coming up. Some of the ladies in the village approached me. Can we start up a community market to showcase all the local artisans around? Not just, I call it the Bermuda Triangle. It's St.Day, Gaharrick and Lanark.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that kind of area. We try and help support all that area and showcase local talent, and we're going to have a market.
Brilliant. And when does that market start?
Yeah, first Saturday in March. It's going to be the first Saturday of every month.
Okay. Now that's good. So if people want to visit the Star Inn in Vogue near St.Day, then you need to make sure that you find it on the map first if you don't live in the area. But Mark does have parking at the pub, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got a huge car park and all that. Beware of, moving with the times. That has a registration. I think it's free, but you have to register your number to make sure that you're using the car park correctly. And we've also got a huge, great field that you, in the summer months, you can park in that as well. So.
Okay, brilliant. No, that sounds good. And what's on the cards next for you, Mark?
I don't know. We're coming up to our 20th anniversary, so we're going to have a little bit of a party for that, we think. I mean, like I said earlier, I'm an ex-serviceman, so I'm very interested in doing some sort of celebrations for VE Day, 80 years.
Yeah. It's a good combination. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to put something on for that. We've got, of course, I can't not mention this, our very famous Ale Festival, which is the 28th of June.
Yeah.
And it's the biggest one-day ale festival in Cornwall.
Is it?
It is. We normally have a good 50 to 60 ales and ciders on, 10 bands, all the food and wagons and things like that. So, what do they call it? Fairground rides for the kids and bouncy castles and,
awesome.
And things like that. And last year, we're sort of getting back up to there, we give to charity. On one day, we raise over 10 grand to give to charity for one day.
That's good. Very good, yeah. And who's your charity going to be this year, do you know?
We haven't actually decided yet. We've got a few candidates and all that. I know last year was a local school, was the blood bikes. We try and give it all to the local charities.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it's individuals. A while ago, there was a lady that was fostering disabled children.
Yeah.
So we paid to have her whole garden changed round. And with disabled appropriate play equipment.
Yeah.
And flat paths and things, we just pay for that. We've done the local school, the local, I'm trying to think, the local bands, the local horticultural group, the school with Red Roof,
Yeah.
any sorts of people.
Fantastic. No, thank you. And just to, I always ask people if there are any recommendations of, if people are listening to you saying, oh, I wish I could run a pub, where would you send them? Now be polite.
The biggest thing I hate, you hear it a lot, mainly from Emmets that are coming down here, they say, I'm going to retire and run a Cornish pub.
Yeah.
It's not something you'll retire into. It's a lot of hard work. It's long hours. I mean, we've been here 20 years and we're pretty steady now. But me and my wife each do approximately 14 to 16 hours a day, every day of the week.
Yeah.
We've been here, like I say, 20 years. In that 20 years, we've had one holiday, which is a week in a caravan in Dawlish.
Nice.
That's the only family holiday we've ever had.
Oh.
So you can knock that on the head.
Yeah.
It's a good life. You live on site. You get bonds for the rest of your life, but you have to realise you're not carrying heavy stuff around, so it's not manually hard work, but it's mentally very draining. You've got to have a very solid relationship.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend that no one goes into it as a single person. It would drive you nuts. It's too much hard work. And if you go in as a couple, look after each other. You've got to be very strong. You've got to, you've got to live together, work together, ups and downs. You've got to drink together.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about it. I would highly recommend people took a job in a pub before they took
Working together.
And
find out if they can cope with each other.
or even, there's plenty of companies out there that allow you to manage pubs. They're looking for managers rather than people that buy in, because you hear it all the time in Cornwall. People put all of their life savings into a pub as a couple to run it. The pub goes down the hill. They lose their life savings. They lose the house. Now they're arguing over money. Then they get divorced and it all goes wrong. That happens a lot. And you've got to be very careful. You manage. See if you can do it. See if you can do the long hours, the no holidays.
And I think that's the thing, people don't always think about that, because if you get someone coming in as a couple to cover you so you can go on holiday, that costs money.
We always call it the double bubble. Whatever we do in this trade, it's like sickness, holidays and all that. If you have someone cover it, you're paying for the person off and the person you got on. So you're paying double. If you go on holiday, you've got to have someone live in. And like I said, we spend a lot of hours here, so there's all the ordering, all the backs stuff.
And you've got all that work to do when you come back if you're unlucky.
That's it. It's like I say, it's not hard work; it's long work.
And leaving it on a positive note, let's think about any companies that you've heard of that do the pub management that you think are particularly good for people to look at.
Not really.
No?
They're all about the same, to be honest. It's one of those funny things. The pub trade with the tied houses and the managed houses is a very unusual way of doing things, because they all have their good points and they all have their bad points. Some are a better fit for some people than others.
Okay,
St. Austell are very good. They're a Cornish company. We're not St. Austell. We're one called it was Devonish in my day. Which is now Punch Taverns. They're an up-country one, but they suit us. Whereas St. Austell would suit other people. St. Austell are very supportive of Cornish people. And keeping their pubs Cornish and this, that, and the other. Where the company I've got, Punch, they're not supportive of Cornish people. They're more supportive of making the money.
Right.
But they suit us because of the way that me and Rachel work. So they support us in a better way.
I suppose it's a bit like when people choose different types, if they choose to buy a house, rent a house, or have a house on leasehold, depends on what works and what you want to invest money-wise and time-wise. And you've got lots of options with the breweries, haven't you, on the different options that are available, whether you want to put any money in or not. And they are looking for people, aren't they? Because I went on recently, surprisingly, how many pubs are looking for people to run them.
There's a fair number of pubs up for sale to buy outright. There's a fair number up for leasehold. There's a fair number up for different breweries looking for managers. I forgot that one. There is another company. They're called Pub Solutions. And what they do is they put you in as holiday cover. Or a pub where the people have left and they want to keep it open. And all you do is a couple of weeks or a month running it yourself, and then they take you out and put the other people back in if they've been on holiday or they have new tenants. And that can be very interesting, because you get a very short, sharp go with it. You get paid for it, and you haven't risked any of your money, and you can get out and then sit down for a couple of days and work out if you enjoy it.
If it's for you or not. No, I think that's a good way of testing the water, isn't it? So I'd like to say thank you very much, Mark, for talking to me today. And
you're welcome, Sara.
I hope you have a lovely rest of the day.
So do I. Every day is different.